almost 6:30 in the evening, and that is much later than I was planning to record this video. I still have to make dinner and take a shower, but I needed to get it done for you, so here I am. A number of years ago, I had started doing a video about the books I had read for an entire year. And over time, I started reading more and more books, so I started doing them twice a year, halfway through the year, and then the end of the year. However, and I think this is a good thing, I'm reading even more now, and doing just the 2 videos doesn't seem to be enough. Plus, I know some of you really enjoy books like I do and like hearing the different books I'm reading or maybe recommendations. So I had said at the end of last year that I was going to try to do more this year and try to make them quarterly. So here I am with my first quarterly video. Surprisingly, I have already read 10 books just in the last few months. So I'm here to talk to you about those today and let you know what I've been reading and what I enjoyed reading. Be sure to leave your reading recommendations in the comments below for me. I have a very long to be read list, but I love adding to it, especially because sometimes it can be difficult to get certain newer titles from the library, so I never mind having lots of suggestions to choose from. Now I'm going to go in the order that I read them, but if you would prefer for future videos to see them by star ratings, then let me know. And for those of you who haven't seen my book videos before, I use Goodreads to not only keep track of what I have read, but what I want to read. And they also do a yearly reading challenge where I keep track of the books for the whole year and my ratings of them. So ultimately, these stars that I'm giving them are the ones that I give them on the site of Goodreads. I did make a goal of 33 books this year, which is the same goal I did last year, but I just barely got it last year, so that's why I thought I'd keep it the same this year and see how it goes. Now, while I said I have 10 books so far, a couple of those are very short stories, so I don't know if they should technically count since it's not a full-length book, but I'm going to tell you about them anyway. Starting with January, I read Kingdom Keepers, number 5, Shell Game by Ridley Pearson. Now, this is a series of books, I guess they're it's like middle grade books, I would say, but they're about Disney and the Disney parks, in particular the Florida Disney parks, and these kids who are regular kids but also have modeled as holograms for Disney. And throughout the stories, they're basically fighting Maleficent and the other villains to keep them from taking over the Disney parks, especially Magic Kingdom. They call them the Overtakers. So they're kind of fighting the Disney evil villains, trying to keep Disney a good and happy place for everybody. And there are quite a number of them. I don't know the total amount, but the one I was on was number 5. I hadn't read one in quite a while, but I went back to it because I was just in the mood for it. I did rate it 4 stars. And, oh, I wrote down in my notes here, I think there are 7 and I'm on 5, so more to come. It was longer than I was expecting. I don't remember the other books being that long, but I did enjoy it and look forward to reading the rest. So if you're a Disney lover like me or like the Disney parks, you might enjoy that series. The next one I read for the Samantha March Book Club, and that was 30 Things I Love About Myself by, I'm probably going to butcher this author's name, I don't mean to, but Radhika Senghani, I think. And this one I rated 3 stars. And it's not normally a book I would have chosen myself, but that's why I like book clubs, because they do allow you to be introduced to different books and authors that you might not normally choose for yourself. I did listen to it on audiobook. That's one way I find I can get in more books, because I can be listening to it in the car or while I'm doing things around the house. Plus, sometimes I find those easier to get than the ebooks. I enjoyed it, but wouldn't say it was my favorite book. I did like its overall message, and especially the main character's message at the end. Just to refresh my memory, let me see if I can find a description. So the book starts out with the main character in jail, and Nina is the name of the main character. She's reflecting on how screwed up her life is, how she ended up here in jail, and everything seems to be going wrong. She broke up with her fiance. Now she has to move back into her childhood home with her depressed older brother and uptight mother. Her career as a freelance journalist isn't going the way that she wants, and all her friends are too busy and successful to hang out with her. Then, just as she falls into despair, she comes across a self-help book, basically how to fix your life by loving yourself. And she says it must be destiny, and with nothing left to lose, she makes a life-changing decision to embark on a self-love journey. And but her plan is to, by her next birthday, she's going to find 30 things she loves about herself. Some of the things I like that they touched on in this book were social media and how quickly people can either latch on to cancel culture, or an opinion can be misconstrued, and also just the fact of social media being a highlight reel and not always being reality. And I also really liked the part of it, or the overall theme of the story about loving yourself, and if you had to sit down and think about 30 things you love about yourself, could you do that, and how difficult would it be for you? So something I might have to try at some point. Next was a sequel, and I do have this one here. This was the continuation of the Magpie Society series by Zoe Sugg and Amy McCullough. I say continuation, but also the final book. It's just a two-part series. So this one was Two for Joy, and I really enjoyed the first one, One for Sorrow. It's kind of a YA mystery, takes place at a boarding school. It's written from two people's perspectives, Ivy and Audrey. It kept my interest, kept me gripped in. I did rate this one 5 stars, but I also don't know if I'm partially biased because it is by Zoe, and I gave it a higher rating because of that, but I did really enjoy it. It was a fast read that kept my interest, and I kept getting a feeling throughout the book that turned out to be true, so I kind of had my detective skills on, and I was detecting something that turned out to be correct. It does have some surprises, and I feel a little bit conflicted about the ending. It leaves you hanging, and I like when things are fully resolved, but I would recommend, they called it a duology, so I would recommend this duology to you if you like mysteries or YA. Since you would have to read the first one before reading this one, I won't get too deep into the description, but there's mysterious things going on at the school, deaths, a podcast is involved in a way, and yeah, it will leave you a little surprised, I think. Next was another sequel to the Murder in Style series. This was book 2, and this one's titled Lipstick and Lies. If you've watched my other book videos, you know I really like this author, Gina Lamanna. I did rate this one 4 stars, and I really enjoy her Lola Pink mystery series, but she hasn't written any more of those. But I also am enjoying this series. It's a mystery, but a little bit of a lighter mystery with a little bit of chick lit thrown in, I would say. She did write a 3rd one, so I'm excited to read that at some point as well. But it takes place in the town of Blueberry Lake, Minnesota. And Jenna McGovern is the main character. She's just come back to this town after being a stylist in Hollywood, and she's now working for her mother's secondhand shop, clothing shop, and she kind of helps out there with styling people. But she's got a love triangle between a fireman who's also her neighbor and the police chief. So I think if you like Hallmark mystery movies, this would really be a series that you would enjoy. Okay, so those were all the books I read in January. Next we get to February, and I read The Terrible Personal Shopper by Laura Burton. Sadly, I did rate this one 2 stars, which I don't do very often, but this was a free one from Amazon, so I found out that you could get free books from Amazon, and I got a couple of different ones to try because I wasn't able to get the ones I wanted from the library at that point. They were kind of on hold, so I said, well, I'll give some of these freebies a try, see how it goes until I can get those ones that I want. And it wasn't horrible or bad necessarily, but it didn't have a lot of substance to me. I think they were going for a romantic comedy, but it just wasn't a great read for me. And since I didn't put a lot of other detail, let me see if I can read a quick description. And this is evidently a series. But ever stumbled into a job you're totally not qualified to do, then fallen literally head over heels for a client? Just me, Layla Scott. When my best friend Josie asked me to cover for her new job, I didn't hesitate. I'm nice like that. The plan? Meet the rich client. Take notes of their measurements and fashion tastes. Then hand over to Josie. Job done. But Josie didn't tell me the client is 6'4" Hollywood hunk Blaze Hopkins. My ultimate on-screen crush. I can't stop my face glowing red as I wrap the tape measure around his hot body. So you can sort of already tell from the description they're kind of writing, I don't know. It just wasn't one that I loved. But free from Amazon? Well, I mean, what can you do? Now, this next one was one of the short stories, so I read this in under an hour. It's called Snowflakes by RUTH WARE, and the fact that it was RUTH WARE is what got me to want to read it. And it was another freebie if I didn't say that. I guess she wrote it exclusively for Amazon. I didn't realize when I first started to read it that it was a short story, but it was. I rated it 3 stars. I had no idea what to expect going in. I somewhat guessed the plot while the story went on, but it was a quick, entertaining read. When a barrier between truth and illusion grows stronger, a family's trust crumbles in this arresting short story by the #1 New York Times bestselling author, RUTH WARE. Leah has spent her formative years isolated on a remote island with her family, but their quiet existence far from the devastated mainland is cracking. Father, sensing a coming threat, demands that a wall be built. As the stone blockade rises, Father's paranoia escalates. So does Leah's dread that the violence the family left behind has found its way in their sanctuary. Right after that, I read another short story because I know I like the author, and that author is TAYLOR JENKINS REID, who I talked about in my last book video, and I've read a number of her books and enjoyed all of them. So I saw that she had a free short story, so I said I'll try that out. It's called Evidence of the Affair, and I liked the way it was written because it was all in the form of letters. It was a little hard to read at times, and sadly I could relate to some of it, but I found it interesting and another quick, entertaining read. And basically, I won't read the description, but I'll just say what I remember of it. It's this man, and he finds these letters that have been written to his wife by a man that she's having an affair with, and then the man whose wife is having an affair on him reaches out to the woman who's married to the man. Oh, this is probably sounding confusing, but basically 2 people are having an affair and their spouses end up writing letters back and forth to each other about this affair, which their spouses have no idea they know about. So there you go. Right after that, I read another TAYLOR JENKINS REID book because it happened to be available from the library, and that was Malibu Rising, and I gave this one 4 stars. The Malibu Rising took place in the 80s and the 50s, both time periods that I love, and it follows a family and their struggles as well as some triumphs. It also shows just how selfish some people can be, but also how selfless other people are. And I think the time periods it took place in intrigued me, especially since most of it was in the 80s, and just following this family's journey and their ups and downs. 4 famous siblings throw an epic party to celebrate the end of summer. But over the course of 24 hours, their lives will change forever. Malibu, August 1983. It's the day of Nina Riva's annual end-of-summer party, and anticipation is at a fever pitch. Everyone wants to be around the famous Rivas. Nina, the talented surfer and supermodel, brothers Jay and Hud, one a championship surfer, the other a renowned photographer, and their adored baby sister Kit. It goes on and on and on, but basically it kind of takes you through the day, so it starts like, let's say, 9 a.m. and everything that's going on in that time and all the way up through the entire night. But I enjoyed it and can't wait to see more from her. Now up to March, which is when I'm recording this, the next book is Death in the Sunshine, The Retired Detectives Club by STEPH, BROADRIBB, another freebie from Amazon. This one I rated 3 stars, and I did find some of the writing to be a little bit repetitive, but it was a good detective story. It takes place in a retirement community in Florida, and when I say a retirement community, I don't mean like a nursing home, I mean like a over 55 community. In them describing it, it reminded me of the villages in Florida, or it seemed like that might be what they're trying to model it after. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't gripping by any means. And it's also another series. 4 ex-cops in a retirement paradise. Sure they'll rest when the killer is caught. After a long career as a police officer, Moira hopes a move to a luxury retirement community will mean she can finally leave the detective work to the youngsters and focus on a quieter life. But it turns out the homestead is far from paradise. When she discovers the body of a young woman floating in one of the pools, surrounded by thousands of dollar bills, her crime-fighting instinct kicks back in and she joins up with fellow ex-cops and new neighbors, Philip, Lizzie, and Rick, to investigate the murder. With the case officers dropping ball after ball, Moira and the gang take matters into their own hands, turning undercover homicide investigators. And then the final book to talk to you about, I just finished today, and I listened to it on audiobook, and it was a memoir, which I don't listen to those that often, but this one I had on my list for a while and said, I think that'll be a good audiobook. It's called Homework, a Memoir of My Hollywood Years by Julie Andrews. So it's a memoir, biography, autobiography? I don't know. By Julie Andrews. I did enjoy it, but I only rated it 3 stars because some parts of it really dragged for me. And there was only a few parts that I was really intently listening and engaged. The fact that it was audiobook, it was narrated by Julie Andrews, so that's nice because it was kind of in her own words, but you were also hearing her voice. I enjoyed getting to hear more about her life, especially the parts that talked about Mary Poppins and Sound of Music, kind of a behind the scenes, her experience. If you like memoirs or Julie Andrews, I think you would enjoy it. So there you have it, the books I've read so far this year and what I thought of them. Let me know what you thought of the books I told you about today. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It really does help me out, only takes a moment of your time. I will be back with another video in June where I'll be talking about the books I read from now until June. I'll continue doing that every quarter, and then I'm not sure how I'm going to do at the end of the year, if I'm going to kind of just touch on favorites, or we'll come to that when we get to the end of the year. But for now, I'll just be doing a recap of what I've read each quarter. So these are the 10 I have for quarter 1. And there's so many books I'm excited to read. Doesn't seem like there's enough time to read them all, and more. Like I said, I keep getting more and more on my list that sound really good and exciting. So if you want to know what I'm reading currently, I just started reading Bridgerton, but it's, I think, the first 3 books all in one. And right in time, because the new season of Bridgerton is coming out on Netflix very soon, but I kind of wanted to read the stories as well as watching the show to kind of see how they differ. And I just started yesterday, so I'm still only on book 1, but I'm hoping to get through all of them before it has to be back to the library, but all of them is like 700 and something pages, so it's going to be a challenging one for me, but you'll hear about that in June. But thanks for watching, happy reading, and I will talk to you later. Bye!